Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Warcraft video. So, Blizz were not messing around with their 8.3 announcement, actually releasing the PTR on the very same day. We've been playing the PTR, we've played the new content, so it's time to let you know what's going on with the main world content of patch 8.3, Titan Assaults, and the lesser vision system that they are connected to, and a very brief look at the current gearing system that is attached to them, and a little bit of the meta progression. So, we're going to kick our preview off with the Assaults. These are very much inspired by what we saw with the Legions patch 7.2 and Battle for Azeroth's patch 8.1. So the Titan Assaults, they take place in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms and Uldum, with both zones seeing changes to reflect the presence of N'Zoth's minions, and the default Vale now being actually restored, which is quite nice to see. Uldum was the most changed in the PTR though, with the Vale being less changed. Currently, both zones had an invasion, but one of them was a N'Zoth invasion, in this case Uldum, which meant that it was complete with Black Empire buildings. The Vale was far less changed, seemingly being a non-N'Zoth invasion, where you deal with, like, the lesser Black Empire followers. Now, in this case, Uldum actually contained the Ny'alotha entrance, and that leads me to believe that the raid portal's always going to be in the zone that N'Zoth is invading. Now, visually, it's fantastic work. You'll see new things like Black Empire structures that house rare mobs, but the zones themselves are very similar to their existing versions, just, you know, with some new content and a lick of paint. So, in Pandaria, we were dealing with a friendly faction of Moku, while in Uldum, we deal with the Uldum Accord, who seemingly aren't in the game yet, and that's our two new factions for this patch. Now, the overall system works similar to past invasions, wherein a zone will come under attack for a period of time. Now, being PTR, we're not sure how these line up, but it seems like there's always going to be content in both zones, with the zone that N'Zoth is focusing on perhaps changing every now and then. But look, overall, this is the core world content, so I imagine it will have very high, if not entire uptime. I mean, if the Assaults are tied to the Ny'alotha portal, then, like, it would need full uptime. Anyway, I'm imagining it just mostly flips between the new zones. You see the N'Zoth and non-N'Zoth Assaults actually have different meta rewards, with the non-N'Zoth one being gold and reputation with the zone's faction, and then the N'Zoth one being a cache of the Black Empire. Now, for me, that contained 50 coalescing visions, a rep item for the Uldum Accord, and 150 echoes of Oblivion, but more on those resources later. So, with the zones themselves, the actual assault markers are visible on the world map, giving you a duration tooltip, as per usual. Once you actually look at a zone, though, you'll see the outline of the area impacted by the invasion, and I presume this will change a little bit in between invasions, just giving you some variation, but I mean, we can't really test that until it, like, flips over a few times. Now, you'll see the usual fare in terms of area markers, and most of the content does just take the form of filling the bar by killing enemies, grabbing treasures, clicking in things, very much the standard. Now, the Vale did have a few mop dailies. They seem like callbacks, just giving you some artifact power. It could be, though, that the non-N'Zoth zone has dailies, but again, we can't be sure until things flip over a bit. Plus, timings for content like this on the PTR have historically changed a lot, so that's why I'm focusing on the actual content for today. Overall, though, I'd say these very much are standard bits of content at their core. I wasn't really seeing the Mechagon-like elements that Ian teased in the video, so I imagine they'll actually come onto the PTR later, or that they're just well hidden, because, I mean, he wouldn't say that without meaning it. I mean, there are, like, buffs to click on in the zones, but it is mostly just simple Legion Assault-like content that is tied to, like, the new factions and some of the catch-up gear. Now, there is a more important feature here, though, and that's a new one called Lesser Visions. So, Lesser Visions are, well, basically a lesser vision of the horrific visions that you see also in this patch. So you enter a lesser vision through the portal in the N'Zoth Assaulted Zone, with you seemingly getting to enter them once per cycle. Now, visually, these are dark visions of locations in the game. In this case, the Uldum portal took me to a dark vision of the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. Now, I imagine, like, the other one will maybe be the Tol'vir city or something like that. Mechanically, though, they are indeed lesser versions of the horrific vision feature. And this is a very smart idea. It's going to get players used to the gameplay concepts at work before they, like, jump into the more dangerous one. So basically, you want to progress as far as you can. You want to kill as many important targets as you can, and, like, help as many citizens within as you can. Your sanity bar here is extremely important, because that limits how long you can actually stay inside the vision. But there are ways to regain sanity as you progress, and that's also tied in to the Titan Research meta progression. Now, sanity is not just a bar. You'll actually get a special sanity effect. Think of it almost like an affix. So in our case, we got one called Madness Afraid of Death, and periodically it would change your displayed health to 1 HP, hiding your actual health and, well, scaring you. As an example, it caused an instinctual lay on hands to happen, wasting that resource. So quite cool with how it plays, like, with the theme, almost reaching through the screen to play on you rather than to just, like, gimp your character. So that was kind of interesting. Now, your main goal here is just to get as many kills as you can. Why? Well, the enemies drop important resources that I will cover in a bit. Now, you're limited by your sanity level and how long you can stay, but that's something you'll be able to plan around. And that means that overall it creates a speedrun feel without using a timer. And I think this is very successful. It basically captures, like, the desire to speedrun against yourself, to go as fast as you can, to get as many resources as you can. And because of this, there's a very strong skill-based element here, as the difficulty scales with how hard you want to zerg the place. An element of Warcraft gameplay that's always existed, but that they're really openly designing around here, incentivizing you to go as fast as you can, but also giving you things to dodge and spells to interrupt. Of course, so that's tuned up in this instance because, like, losing sanity from standing in a swirly, well, that's going to be a real pain. So, as you progress, you defeat mobs, maybe even some rares and elites, but eventually you'll be booted out by Mother when you run out of sanity. This will complete a quest, getting you a bunch of resources. So let's talk about the overall resources here. Now, your main reward for doing this stuff is coalescing visions. These are the resource that grants you access to horrific visions, the main new type of content in this patch. Now, yes, the lesser visions, and by an extension, the Titan assaults, they do gate your access to the horrific visions. Now, Blizzard's gameplay intent here is to clearly create a loop between all three types of content. That might not be ideal for some players, but I mean, hey, it's Design 101, and I can see why they've decided to construct it in this manner. Indeed, it's going to have a benefit in terms of overlapping progression that I'll cover later. Now, when you're in a lesser vision, you'll find that the enemies will drop coalescing visions, corrupting mementos, and then some corruptium, with corruptium being a placeholder item. Now, the coalesce visions coming from those mobs, like, that's gating your horrific vision access, so it really just does drive home how that's a piece of content that you want to optimize as much as you can. You want to clear it as much as you can, go as hard as you can. And what it effectively does is something I've really wanted for a long time: regular world content that has difficulty. That's very, very welcome if you contrast it to, say, the Zergable Legion invasion points of 7.3. Next, the corrupted mementos are used for Titan research. Now, this is important. The Titan research is a new progression system for this patch. It very much does seem like it will change, and it's very whip at the minute on the PTR. Now, examples involve things like sanity restoration orbs, and others getting 500 sanity once you reach 0 once per vision to let you stay in longer. Another is a solo play damage buff, another is a party sanity buff. Other examples are reviving allies costing no sanity, destroying elites, restoring 20% max sanity, damage alterations based on your sanity level, and a few others. So it's a progression system that clearly will apply to the lesser and greater visions, meaning the Blizzard have really designed the reward systems to feed back into themselves. Then I believe it's also the case that the cloak that you get from Rathian also ties into the sanity mechanic, so you can see it really all links together. Now, the assaults and the lesser visions also give us some catch-up gear, but honestly, it's really unfinished right now. So there's orbs of varying colors that you can get, and then also the echoes of Oblivion that I mentioned earlier. Now, they're traded in for catch-up gear, but the system just seems super complete. Overall, though, the point seems to be that you can get 420 catch-up gear pretty easily, but that it will take more effort to get past that. And honestly, we just need to wait for more PTR updates to see exactly what that's going to look like. So overall, in terms of opinions, this is an interesting one, because design-wise, I see all this and I think this is really smart. Now, I'll admit I'm a bit disappointed with the Titan assaults. I think that they're just lacking a bit of dynamicism, a bit of spice. If it is just kind of Legion invasions all over again, yeah, that's not going to be super thrilling to me, especially after some of the zones we just came off. Now, that said, Ian did say there were Mechagon sort of like inspirations there, so if that is the case, there could be more to those zones that will reveal itself as the PTR process continues. There definitely is potential there. I'll say the core idea is pretty cool, and I mean, theoretically, they should be able to apply this to other zones. The entire lore reason is that Titan Forges are being attacked, so, you know, why not other Titan-related areas on Azeroth? They could really, like, just add ones as time goes on, and, you know, that could spice up the patch a little bit. So, yeah, there's that. I guess it's just very standard but pretty well executed content. I think it does benefit from just taking place around Azeroth. I think that's something that's novel. You know, it's World of Warcraft, right? It's not most recent Island of Warcraft. I mean, normally it is most recent Island of Warcraft, but if they can make it World of Warcraft more, I think that really fits the theme of this patch, and it's a pretty good use of the world that, let's be real, they've already made. And if most gameplay comes from, you know, like content that they've designed, why not lean on pre-established areas? I mean, if anything, you're just going to benefit from players having a pre-established emotional connection with those areas. So it seems like a very smart thing to do, regardless of its like usage in this patch. Now, as for the lesser visions, I think they're really good. They make me think of, I mean, a lot of things. So first, there's a little bit of Chromie, where like the more time you say go into the Veil of Eternal Blossoms one, you'll learn where the rare mobs are. You'll learn like the good path through it, and you'll be able to go faster and faster each time. Now, this is solo instance content, yes, but it overall has a part in the solo world content sort of gameplay loop. Now, look, that's a loop where people actually enjoyed farming gulp frogs, okay? And where, say, the Timeless Isles gameplay generally worked out quite well. In this case, right, yeah, like you're farming gulp frogs as fast as you humanly can to get your Timeless coins. Here, you're farming this stuff as fast as you humanly can, just that there's way more interesting mechanics designed around it. So I think those lesser visions are really quite smart. I mean, just conceptually to me, and with my first impressions, they seem infinitely better than the Legion, the Legion invasion, or invasion points from 7.3. Because let's be real, with those, you just went and did them, right? There was no extra gameplay that made them interesting. You just zerg them out in a raid group, or even just in a party of 5. Whereas with these, you've really got to put your thinking cap on. And it's nice seeing Blizzard, like, willing to just say, like, yeah, you can just nerf this over time a bit by using the Titan research, but if you're a good player, like, there's world content where you can push yourself. I think that is a really important precedent for Blizzard to be setting, and I'm very glad that these lesser visions are actually doing that. So overall, I think they'll be able to create a successful tie between the 3 pillars of solo gameplay in this patch. Of course, the horrific visions do, you know, have a group component if you want to do it, but overall, going between those 3 things, I mean, for me, I think that will be a more compelling gameplay experience than just going around Mechagon and Nazjatar. Now, that said, that could just be my own personal preferences. I'll definitely say, though, like, there's design thinking going on here that is, I think, a little bit above what we've seen before. And this patch is so experimental in nature that I guess seeing these experiments is a very heartening thing. I mean, I said as much in my overview video, but once you actually go into the gameplay on the PTR, I think you really do see that. So there's potential here. My only worry is there won't be enough content. Like, there'll be 2 assault zones that won't be that much different. 2 lesser vision, points like maybe the Veil of Eternal Blossoms and the Tol'vir City. But, I think there could be more for all of that. And it seems like these are really well-designed systems that just need to be applied to more zones, more areas, with those areas having their own little unique twists. If Blizzard could do that in a 8.3.5, or maybe have some of that just, sneakily roll out throughout 8.3, I think that might be a good idea. At its core, though, I'll say maybe the quantity of content here is a little bit low, but I think the quality of the design is actually pretty darn high. And that's the most important thing for World of Warcraft. As I said, Battle for Azeroth, or as I said in the last video, BFA was massive. BFA had gorgeous zones. The art team just did such a good job. Yet what let it down was just more world quests. This is, I think at its core, more than just world quests, and I think that's fundamentally good and should be worthy of praise. Of course, we'll see how it develops on the PTR. I will keep you up to date with all of that. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell because A, it gives the YouTube algorithm a bunch of good things, and B, we're going to have more content on the PTR coming out very shortly indeed. So, thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know what you think about these features down in those comments below, and with that, I will see you next time.